It just so happens that I've spent a lot of time with a whole bunch of other speakers in this same price segment, but this speaker in particular definitely sounds the best of the lot. Thank you to TOZO for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump into how this is built. The unboxing experience is fairly straightforward and to the point, but what did catch me by surprise was the sheer weight of this box. You get the speaker, of course, a charging cable, a color-matched lanyard you can attach to the speaker, and you get the literature as well. When you pick up the speaker, you'll understand why the box is as heavy as it is. This weighs in at a hefty 540 grams, so something does tell me it's got good internal hardware. Its overall finish is quite good. It does have a fabric wrap all around it with a matte finish on the sides. The TOZO branding sits right in the middle of the front of the speaker, just ahead of the drivers, and this logo does have a very professional looking metal finish to it. Towards the sides, you'll see the passive radiators with the TOZO branding on them, and the feet on the outside of them do have few recessed sections, so if you want to place the speaker on the sides, lower frequencies can find their way out easier. Then when you move to the back of the speaker, you'll see the USB-C slot for charging, an EQ button which lets you toggle between 3 EQ modes, a volume up and down button, play and pause button, a Bluetooth pairing button, and the power on and off button next to where you can attach the lanyard. If you intend on taking the speaker near the beach or a pool, it should be alright with some splashes thanks to its IPX8 rating. This comes with Bluetooth version 5.3. You can answer calls with this speaker since it does have a microphone, and if you want a little more control when it comes to its sound, you can control it via the TOZO app. You can control the speaker via the tactile buttons on it. Pressing the pairing button will let you pair your broadcasting devices to it. Pressing and holding the volume up and down buttons will do a factory reset. Volume up and down work as they should, but holding the volume up button will skip to the next track, and holding the volume down button will take you to the previous track. The play and pause button will do so with your music and answer and end calls when you get one. Pressing and holding it when you get a call will reject an incoming call. Pressing the EQ button will toggle between the treble plus, standard and bass plus EQ modes, and holding the power button will put it on and off. This speaker does support TWS pairing, so if you decide to pick up two of these and place them on either side of your screen, you will have a larger stage when consuming your content. The other added bonus with this speaker is that it does come with a microphone. So you can take calls on this speaker if you do receive any. Now the thing is, this does have one microphone, so it will not have any environmental noise cancelling, but I have been on the camera microphone right now to give you a sense of the noise around me in this room, and I'll switch over to the TOZO PA2 microphone right about now. So this is the overall tonal quality you can expect to carry over to your recipient, and right now the speaker is about arm's length away from me, so say about maybe 2 feet away or a little more. I'll bring the speaker a little closer to me, and I'm talking towards the grill, the one with the logo. So this does have the microphone somewhere in front itself. So I am talking into the speaker right now. So this is how I sound when I'm close to it. But let's face it, you will be further away. So I'm pushing this a little further back to where it was. So this is pretty much how your recipient will hear you. If you are in a busy setting, I do expect this to pull in some amount of noise, but not too much, because this is obviously just one driver. It's not going to be omnidirectional since it will be front facing. So if you do move from one side to the other, it will sort of change the input of the overall volume being carried over to your recipient. So anyway, this is the overall total clarity that will carry over to your recipient if you do take a call on this. And I do hope it's given you a better understanding of the speaker. And I'll see you in the chapter about sound. This comes with two 8-watt 1.7-inch dynamic drivers, and it has two passive radiators on either side that measure in just short of 2 inches each. This does support the SPC and AAC codecs and has a frequency response of 60 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz. On a volume front, this can get quite loud, but I found myself usually listening to this at about 50% volume. Now, lower in volume down to 20%, you would expect it to thin out, but it does maintain a good amount of roundedness. One thing to keep in mind when you are listening to a set of speakers with passive radiators is the louder in volume you go, you are more driving the active drivers than the passive ones. So the lower frequencies from these passive radiators will reduce. So I found when I go above 50% volume, there is less prominence with the bass. So I usually just sit at about 50% volume. Now, instead of me going on about how loud this gets, let me quickly show you exactly how loud it will get with this quick demo. When it comes to a soundstage, it's practically a mono setup because of how small this is, but it does have two drivers that will play back in stereo, but because it's coming from one point, it is practically mono. Now, the thing is, with this specific speaker and any speaker, whether it costs as much as this or at least even 100 times more, any speaker's placement is crucial to how it sounds. So with this in particular, I've noticed that if it is being played in an open space in the middle of a room, its overall size does become that much smaller. Whereas if you put it against a wall or in a corner, so the passive radiators are hammering or firing against the corners of the wall, the size of the speaker does seem to get a lot larger. So placement is of course crucial with any speaker. So another cool thing that TOZO does have is that this speaker does have TWS pairing. So if you want to pick up two of these speakers, you can keep them on either side of your computer screen or TV screen, and you will actually get a better stereo separation, because then you can sort of get that triangular listening experience, and that will, well, it will definitely expand your stage compared to just having one speaker. On an imaging front, this is not the most detailed or nuanced speaker that there is out there, but compared to all the other speakers that I've been listening to lately in the same price range, I can honestly say it's the best sounding one that I've heard. It is clean enough to enjoy certain details in your music. There are certain nuances that do go missing, no doubt, but it is a small speaker. It's got small drivers. There's only so much it can do. But overall, it does handle itself pretty well, and is still fun to listen to. High frequencies do have a richness in their approach without being too aggressive. It's a soft presentation without being piercing, whether you listen to softer genres of music or more upbeat tunes. It's got a good amount of energy without being offensive in its delivery. Percussive instruments in this range come through with a sense of purpose, but don't intend on cutting your ears off. Some speakers I've heard go above and beyond this range, making some music sound quite unpleasant. Not this. Listening to U2 perform, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. A tambourine takes prominence in this track, but it doesn't take center stage with this speaker. It sits a little further back without taking away from Bono's voice and the rest of the music. I'd say on this standard EQ preset, it's just right. If you do find it to be on the softer side of things, you can always play around with the EQ settings within the TOZO app. When it comes to its mid frequencies, vocals do have more of a forward approach. So if you're into singing along with your music, it's very easy to zone in onto your lyrics. The vocal and instrumental separation isn't the best when you have both in a track, but vocals take on more importance when listening to music. If you decide to listen to instrumental music, it does an even better job of handling detail, and this range does tighten up since there's lesser load on the drivers. I found myself enjoying more acoustic music on this speaker than vocal heavy tunes because of this. Listening to Creed perform Hide, as much as I enjoy Scott Stapp's vocals coming through with a good amount of energy, it does tend to overlap the instruments backing him quite a lot. But this does ensure a sing-along can be fun. But when I move on to Soul Hunters performing Harlock the Brave, the detail and separation in this track is really unbelievable for a speaker in this price range. This track does manage to carry over a good amount of groove here, which I know it shouldn't be able to do. Lower frequencies carry themselves well, but they have a characteristic that will change depending on where you place the speaker in a room. The lower frequencies depend entirely on the passive radiators this speaker has on either side of it, and one thing it does have is a solid construction, which a lot of other speakers in this range don't possess. This is bound to assist how this speaker performs in this range. The lower frequencies in an open space don't disappear, which is usually the case, but when this is up against a corner in a room or near a wall, the lower range becomes larger, taking on more body for your music. At louder volumes, it will decay since these frequencies are coming from small passive radiators. Listening to David Guetta perform Without You featuring Usher, this track does start off on a softer note, making you think that's all the speaker can manage. But at the 45-second mark, the music does start swelling, and at the 1-minute 15-second mark, the beat does take over. This speaker handles this range well enough despite being in the standard mode. Throw it into its bass plus mode and the bass gets a little more effortless in its presentation. So I've been testing this speaker on its standard mode, and you can cycle between 3 different modes on it. The bass plus mode is fun, of course. It does have a treble plus as well, but the treble plus gets a little too excited for me in the high frequency range. But of course, if you don't like any of these modes, you can sort of scroll through the other EQ settings you do get in the TOZO app. In fact, you can play around with the manual EQ. You have about 10 bands that you can play with. I have not seen this level of control on any other speaker that I've been testing. For that matter, I've seen other speakers in this price range that they just don't have an app. They just work with the Bluetooth. This has a dedicated app. And over and above that, if you don't want to use the manual EQ, you've got 16 different presets you can play around with, including the standard bass plus and treble plus as well. So it's really nice to see that TOZO has given you that much control. So to sum up, overall on a build front, it's been put together beautifully. In fact, I really like how they've done the wraparound fabric. I think a lot of people are doing this now, but the way TOZO's done it is very neat. In fact, I normally don't like differently colored speakers. I like just playing it safe with black or grays. But this is genuinely very nicely done. It's a nice looking overall finish. I do like the tactile buttons. They're very responsive. There's nothing like having a nice firm click whenever you interact with the speaker, of course. And of course, even the matte finish around it, the passive radiators, it overall just does have a very nice finish. And I have to say, the fact that it weighs as much as it does, I wasn't too sure if it was correct, because the manual does say 540 grams. I had to go and weigh it to make sure it was actually 540. It is 541 with the lanyard on it. So it is a hefty speaker. It feels good in the hand. In fact, that usually is telling that they've used good components. There are a lot of speakers out there that are big and bulky looking, but they're very light, and usually they tend to give up sooner than later. But this, I think I can vouch for it. It's definitely well put together. On the feature front, it's pretty much got everything it needs. It's got Bluetooth version 5.3. I haven't had any cutoffs with audio, but the one thing that I did find a bit peculiar was my daughter did bring this speaker to me one day when I was listening to it, and my iPad was broadcasting to it at the time, which I had left in a bedroom. And she brought the speaker all the way out to another room that I was sitting in, and we were a good distance away, plus a lot of walls were in between, and I was surprised it was still holding that connection. Only when I went maybe a little further away did it start chopping, but up until the point where she brought it to me, despite all the walls, it was very steady. So that is very impressive, I feel. And the other things you need, well, it's got a microphone, which is pretty cool. If you've missed the call chapter and you want to know how your recipient will hear you, head on over to the call chapter. I've got that demo over there. And feature-wise, I mean, it's even got an app you can play around with and tweak the sound in certain ways you can. In fact, something I didn't mention, the app does have other settings that you can go into if you want to listen to running water near a stream or different things. They have these inbuilt in the app, so you can select them if you want to use it before you go to sleep. In fact, I have not been using that, but I have been listening to a lot of nice calm music while going to sleep. So moving on to the sound, well, overall on the sound front, it is a very enjoyable speaker. It's not audiophile level, obviously. Like I do love a lot of detail in my music, but this is perfect for casual listening. In fact, it's got enough bass. It's not that it's going to shake the room, but it's got enough bass. It's fun enough. The highs are rich enough. The vocals are a bit forward, which is fine. Again, like I mentioned, if you do like to the whole karaoke thing or you like to sing along, it's fine. But of course, if you do want to play around with how it sounds, you've got the presets. And of course, you do have the manual EQ. So I have mentioned to you that I've got a whole lot of speakers. In fact, I do. There's a whole bunch of them over my left over here. And the thing is, I have toyed with the idea of reviewing this on my channel, but the thing is, none of them cut it. I don't really like how they sound. And because I don't like how they sound, I've chosen not to review them. This, on the other hand, really trumps everything that's over here next to me. It definitely does sound richer. It's better detailed. It's better defined. It's not muddy in the mids like some of these are. A lot of these other speakers tend to be, they try to be very big and bloated in the bass because a lot of people like bass, but then you lose all the detail. Whereas the way TOZO's tuned this on an engineering front and the overall way it sounds, I think they've done a significantly better job than anything else that exists in this price range that I've heard. One thing I noticed very soon after handling the speakers, like I did mention, I've handled the other speakers, and now I'll show you another speaker. Now, if you have two active drivers in the front facing you and the passive radiators are on the side, a lot of companies leave the pressure chamber open. So whatever pressure is made from the active drivers builds up, which tends to excite the passive radiators. Now, this is where your lower frequencies will escape from usually. Now, TOZO has done exactly that. It's the two drivers, and I presume it's an open chamber in the middle, and depending on how they've built the inside, the pressure will find its way to the passive radiators. So one thing I do want to show you is on this speaker is, if you look at this passive radiator over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push against this passive radiator and show you what happens. I don't know if you can see it, but I am pushing this passive radiator. When I push this passive radiator is also getting moved, which means whatever pressure I'm exerting here is coming off that way, which means it's got a very tight seal, so it's able to send a lot of its pressure over to both passive radiators. Now, this other speaker I'm going to show you is, well, I've covered up the brand, but I'll show you what's happened here. This is the passive radiator here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm pushing right now. I am pushing over here, and as you can see, it's not moving. So now, yes, there is a possibility that for this specific speaker, they have only attached one driver to the other and so on, but one dynamic driver to each passive radiator, which is why they won't be connected when I do that. But man, the way it sounds, I think, is a dead giveaway. Both of these are just no comparison with each other. I would never, in fact, if I had a chance to choose between these two in particular, both of them cost around the same price, I will always go for the TOZO. Just everything about this speaker is very evidently, it shows that the people who've made it have a passion towards sound and overall finish and engineering. So that's the TOZO speaker for you. I really like it. It's genuinely been a lot of fun to listen to. I've been listening to it. I've been testing it for a long time. In fact, I think TOZO's not too happy that I've not brought out my review sooner than later, but I've really taken my time with this speaker. It's genuinely a very impressive speaker for its price, and I would definitely recommend this if you want something to take around with you, if you want to enjoy music in each room, or if you want to go to the beach or near a pool. It's a very nice sounding speaker. It's great for casual listening, and overall, yeah, it is fun. So anyway, coming to the price, well, at the time of recording this video, this does have a maximum selling price of about $129.99. That's US dollars. And honestly, considering the price, if it was sold for that much, I'd say, yeah, you know, it might be a little expensive. You might be able to get some things better in that price range. But right now, as of recording this video, it has a selling price of $39.99 US dollars, which honestly is an absolute steal. It's an absolute steal. And is it value for money? Absolutely yes. I mean, considering everything that I've mentioned in this review, it's a great speaker to go for. I think a lot of people can enjoy it. You get it in a series of colors. This is the red one, of course. I think you get a gray and you get a black as well. So depending on your taste, you can of course choose whichever one you want. And there you have it. That's the TOZO PA2. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I do hope that it helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning in to Paul's POV for some sound advice.